Alright, so what's the number TV? We got one of our first guests. We got my man Rodney Epperson here. You know, welcome to the channel. Appreciate you stopping by.
Appreciate you for having me, man.
This is your first time on the channel, so we gonna start from the jump, from the beginning. You know what I'm saying? You know, you got a lot of history, a lot of stories, a lot of things to share with the people. So we're gonna start from the beginning. So you from Queens, basically?
For sure, yeah. I'm from Queens. You know what I'm saying?
What part of Queens?
Flushing, Sanford Avenue. You know what I'm saying? We was just, you know, I grew up in a funny era. You know what I mean? Because it was like a transition in Queens. You know what I mean? It's like you got your hustlers, and that same time you go down the block and you got all the Asians. You know what I'm saying?
You was a single parent home, both parents?
Yeah, both parents. You know what I'm saying? My parents split when I was younger, but you know, say they were best friends. You know what I mean? So it was like an easy transition going from Harlem to Queens. You know what I mean? So I had to go back and forth.
So who you was with in Queens with?
I was with my mom.
And then your pops was in Harlem?
My pops was in Harlem, yeah. He was born and raised out there, so.
Around what age did they like split up and all that?
I was like around 2-3 years old.
All right, so young.
Young. But they always kept it together. It was never no like bashing, like, oh, your father ain't shit, your mother ain't shit. You know what I'm saying? It was always love, and you know.
So you went to elementary school and junior high school and all that out there?
And I went to elementary and junior high school in Manhattan. So I went to PS 84 on 92nd Street, and then I went to junior high school, Columbus Academy, and on 72nd, across the street from Natural Museum History Joint.
All right.
So I always went to school in Manhattan, always.
So was sports and basketball and all that part of your life from early?
Mm-hmm. So like basically when I was growing up, my aunt, she dated Mike, you know what I mean? And Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my
before
aunt.
Juanita?
Yeah, way before Juanita. You know what I'm saying? So
it's an exclusive.
yeah, so that always had the attraction, you know what I'm saying? Like I was like, you know, she always had me watching the games, and then growing up on Morningside as well in Harlem, they had a basketball court, you know what I'm saying? So she used to take us out there, my dad, you know what I'm saying, getting us in, and I spoke to Magic Johson for the first time when I was like 7 years old, and that shit always stuck in my mind. That's why I'm a Lakers fan. Yeah, I spoke to him on the phone. Yeah, like I spoke to him on the phone.
Through your aunt?
Yeah, through my aunt. And then later on, my dad, he's a fashion designer. He ended up doing a fashion show with Magic Johson that was sponsoring that, and I ended up meeting him when I was 16. Again, you know what I'm saying? So
that's fine.
It was just like, you know what I'm saying?
So what kind of, if you had to describe yourself as a kid at that time, what kind of kid would you say you was?
Man, just well brought up, you know what I mean? Like well cultured, you know what I mean? Before things became acceptable, I was around it, you know what I mean? So like anything that's brought out to this day from like the gay community, from people dressing a certain way, I was there because my parents were fashion. In the culture, yeah, I was very cultured. So shit wasn't surprising.
Late 90s, early 90s, 2000s?
Early 90s, like all that shit, you know what I'm saying? Like early 90s, like my mom, she was a model. She Beth Ann, you know what I'm saying, Wilhelmina, all that stuff, you know what I mean? So I grew up around Naomi Campbell, Cynthia Bailey, Iman, like those type of people. So like my mother, she would always teach me certain things. She would always be like, you know, if you don't understand something, ask questions, you know what I'm saying, gain knowledge. Don't start judging shit from the jump. So like I was always around certain things. So with
the schools that you went to, were they were public schools or private schools?
So with the public schools,
elementary, junior high.
Elementary, junior high was straight public school. Mom Dukes was like, nah, you too much of a ladies man. You're going to an all boys school, and that's why you know what I'm saying.
So let me ask you a quick question.
Yeah.
So at that time, like elementary, going into high school and all that, like going into junior high school, elementary, what kind of, in the sports, as far as like your basketball you playing, what kind of player are you at this time? Was you just learning the game? Do you see that you got some type of talent already?
I never took the game serious until I got to high school.
All right, so where you went to high school at?
So I went to LaSalle, and LaSalle Academy, you know what I'm saying, with Ron Artest, everybody went.
How you ended up getting in here? Like how
through the boys club. So I ended up playing ball through the boys club.
From AAU?
I wouldn't play AAU then. I didn't even know what that was. That's the crazy thing. That's how I didn't take it that serious until I found out what it was really about. Mm-hmm. Like what you had to do to make it. I was like,
I want to play. When you hit high school?
Exactly. That's when I hit high school, my freshman year. Like
AAU.
And then I figured out, I was like, oh, Gauchos, Riverside, and I fucking lived down the block from the shit. You know what I'm saying?
All your life.
Going to visit my dad. I'm like, Riverside is literally up the hill from where I sit on 122nd and Morningside. You know what I'm saying?
So what you saying you went to school like Devon Artest and people like that? Was it? I'm guessing coming from Queens, where school you was at, you probably one of the better players at where you was playing even at that young age. So coming to a school like that and seeing other people that's good, better, or just as good as you, was that like a shock? Did you know there was people that was out there better than you already?
I knew that because growing up where I was from, I always played with all the older dudes. So all the older dudes like on some no foul calling shit. Right. So when I played with dudes in my group, this shit was cakewalk. You know what I'm saying? Even when I went to like other camps, they're like, oh, you're going to 5-star. I'm like, what's that? You know what I'm saying? What's 5-star? They're like, oh, all the top dudes, the last session, all the top dudes in the city, this is how you get ranked. This is how you get known. I'm like, all right. And that first year I went, I ended up playing with DeJuan Wagner. It was me and D. Wags. And D. Wags was in the 8th grade. He was the only junior high school kid in that motherfucking camp. My freshman year, me and D. Wags. And they were like, oh, this is a kid coming up. And I'm like, oh, word, all right, cool. I'm like, I ain't see nothing special because I didn't think of it. And then I was like, Polo, I'm like, oh, this motherfucker, this nigga different. And then I saw, and then I saw Jay Williams from Duke. Yeah. And then him and like, he was a counselor with Ron and all that, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, oh shit. So I started grasping everything that was going on.
It was at 5-star camp.
Yeah, 5-star camp. I was like, oh shit.
That's high school though.
Ben Gordon. Like, I was just watching. I'm like, oh shit, they're getting this type of attention. This is happening. This is what you got to do. You got to kill these people to be known or acknowledged at least. You know what I'm saying? So after that, when I went to my sophomore year, that's when I started taking things serious. Because when I went on LaSalle, freshman year, man, I was missing practices. I said, what the fuck is practice? On a Saturday?
Hold on, not just being too fast.
No, my bad.
But, so I want to ask this though. As a high school kid, as a student, as a basketball player, are you at the age where you already outside as to mean like, are you traveling to different areas already playing ball, or are you still more so just hooping in your area or in school, or are you going to these different neighborhoods, different tournaments in these areas already?
Yeah, I always played in different tournaments.
From early elementary, or was it high school that started?
And did you do it
from junior high school? I always played against like.
So you was traveling to see.
Yeah. Like I'll be in left rack, like winning tournaments in left rack, like playing in like tournaments around like
all 5 boroughs.
Yeah, just but not thinking of anything like, okay, this is what you got to do. You hoop, you know what I'm saying? Until I got into the structure of high school and how you get ranked and how you go to the next level or in college, you know what I'm saying? The dreams, you know what I'm saying?
I know you played at a couple high schools after the South. I want to get to that, but before we get to that, I also know that you was in the Lenny Cook documentary.
Yes, sir.